We're going to round out the year with a very special guest on the channel. When people ask me my favorite singers, the easy answer is obviously, Chris Cornell, Lane Staley, Steve Marriott, Ann Peebles, Paul Rogers, Glenn Hughes, Bobby Liebling, a few other weirder ones, Snake from Voivod, Ville from Sentenced. If you want to do a deep dive into the singers I like, Peter Steele from Type of Negative, obviously, check out the covers on the channel. But someone that's really inspiring me currently and has for a very long time, and someone that I also know as well, is Daniel Formica. He's someone that I've wanted to get on the channel for such a long time. Every time I see one of his videos, I see him singing. If you see him singing Boston or Journey or Jane or whatever it is, the really crazy stuff that he sings so naturally, I'm just left in awe at his ability to sing and how humble he is as a guy. So what I want to do is welcome Daniel to the channel. And I hope you guys enjoy this one because, this is a special thrill for me to be able to, ask him a bunch of questions. I've never really gotten around to asking him, and we're going to ask him right now. Let's get started.
Daniel, thank you so much for being on the channel. We're rounding the year with a very special guest, and you're it.
I'm special. Someone else has got to be in the room.
We've already been through the best part of our chat so far. So
I know we started getting into Steve Marriott already.
Yeah, 3 minutes, Steve Marriott, everything already.
Height and weight.
Yeah, height.
Fighting weight.
That's a funny one. That's a funny one too. I've over the years I've had lots of Russian students, and you just meet people over Skype or whatever, and I'm not a particularly big guy.
Yeah.
And it comes up in conversation. They're like, "Oh, I'm 6'6", and I'm like,
"Yeah,
you're fucking how tall?" Like,
no, it's wild when you meet them. Like, I want to meet. Like I told you, I have so many students that are from Australia, and I always they all kind of know each other now. I made a little group, and now they all kind of know each other on Facebook. We have this whole Facebook group, and I'm always like, when is one of you guys got to throw like a party? And like have a barbecue, because they're all pretty much in Victoria.
Yep.
So
that's
it's
where
like,
I grew up.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably know some of them. I've got a bunch of students down there in Gippsland where I grew up in a farm down there. So yeah, but Australia's a big place. Like if you see Australia superimposed over America, it's the same size except we're half desert. Same size.
You've got to go see John. What is John's last name? Hold on one second. Let me look. You've got to go see John sing, because he was one of my students, and his brother, McNamara.
Okay.
And he's got a blues band called, it's like, let me see. I'm giving him John, I'm giving you promo right now if you've watched this, you turkey. And his brother's a really good singer too. What is John's band called? You would actually really, really like him, as it's totally soulful. He does mostly Sam Cooke. Like all old Sam Cooke stuff, and it's got this raspy high voice that is to die for. It's
beautiful.
And it's called McNamara and Mar. Is that what it's called? Because there's a girl singer in the band too.
Okay.
And they're really, really, really good. You would you would like. Oh, he doesn't have any of the info on there, and I can't remember the name of the band.
He's one of those people like you that's this amazing singer that doesn't really have anything out there. You look up you out there, and you're a ghost, man.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny. He does have stuff out there. They do Sam. What's his name? The McNamar band, McNamar band. But you personally, because you Paul Rogers fan, and all and Free, Free and Steve Marriott and all that, would love his voice, dude. Like,
awesome.
When he first came to me, I was like, what do you want me to do? Like, I don't want to touch you. Like, it's too good.
Yeah, that's it, right? That definitely happens sometimes. I was telling you about my buddy Neil that came to me. He's like, I want to sing a G, and I'm like, yep, let's go through my process. Oh, not that G. I want an octave above your G5. I'm having troubles with my G5 and A5.
Yeah,
what are you coming to me for?
Yeah, no, guys. Can
you help me with that?
Mentioned to that kid on YouTube who commented on one of my YouTube videos, like, I can't always get my G5.
G5.
You're in a G5. You don't need me. You're all set to go. Keep going.
Yeah, you get that sometimes. Definitely get that sometimes.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Great.
I was going back to the height thing. I had a really funny experience years ago, 20 years ago. I saw Type O Negative play, and Peter Steele is 6'8". He was 6'8", so he's a big boy. And all like the photos and everything I've ever seen, the other guys look like they're 5 foot tall, right? I went to see them, and they're all like 6'2", like a foot taller than me, and I'm just like, hang on, you don't look like your photo. It's just because the singer of the band is a foot taller than them, and they're like a foot taller than me.
Wow, that's
huge guys.
That's like going to see when I was younger, and I met Extreme. That was one of my favorite bands as a kid.
Yep.
And I ended up meeting all the guys, and I'm small, I'm only 5'6", 5'7", and then I meet these guys, and I'm like, they were all shorter than me. Yeah. And they all look like gods, because I would go watch them on stage, and they look like, I'm looking up on the stage. I'm like, wow, these guys are like big guys.
AC/DC's the same.
Yeah,
AC/DC, they're about 5'3" combined.
That's probably all become rock stars. I really go, well, the rock stars. That's our red sports car.
Basically, right? So how did you get started? How did you get started as a singer? I think you were a guitarist first.
Yep. Yeah, guitarist first, and that'll lead into the Jeff Scott Soto stuff, because I had a band in Connecticut, but then we moved to LA when I was like 19 or 20, but it was just three of us. We left the singer at home, and we went looking for a singer, and it took us about a year. We auditioned, and I actually gave it a shot. I was like, well, let me try, because I always wanted to be a singer. Yeah, it wasn't happening. So we were like, and then finally we were at a gig. We were at this place. I forget the name of the club. It was kind of it'll come to me. And it was on Hollywood Boulevard, and they did it on Thursday nights or Tuesday nights, and we'd always go there, and they had different bands all night. And then one night we were sitting there, and I'm like, I didn't drink. I didn't drink till I was like 23. So I'm like 20. I'm not, I didn't drink or anything. I was just hanging out, and all of a sudden I heard this voice, and it was like it was a Terrence Trent D'Arby, who was one of my favorite singers, and it was a line from one of his songs, and the singer was singing it.
Yep.
Oh my God, I can't remember the name of the song. I don't know, if I look at it, I'll find it. Anyway, and I hear it, and all of a sudden I could just picture my bass player and my drummer, and we're all just like they're over, one's over there, and I'm like, that's our guy. That's our guy. We're just gonna steal him. Let's just get this guy. So we almost got in a fight, because I walked up to him after his set, and he was great. He was like a Terrence Trent D'Arby, Smokey Robinson meets Steven Tyler meets Terrence meets Stevie Wonder. I mean, just soulful. And I was like, and I walked up to him and I said, "You're my singer and you don't even know it." And he thought I said, "You're a singer and you don't know it," or something like that. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, no. You're my singer." And he's like, I go, "Listen, I'm not asking you to quit your band right now. Come to one rehearsal." I knew my band, like, we had good songs. We had very similar to what his band was doing. I'm like, but I thought we were better. And I was just like, I'm going to get this guy. And then he came to one rehearsal. That was it. He never went back to his old, that band was called, and if they ever hear this, I'm going to say, sorry, who never, what happened to them? DZ Stans was the name of his other band. They're called DZ Stans. But and then we had a band called Body and Soul for, about 4 years in LA, and did the whole Gazzari's. Foxy guy. I got called Foxy by the owner, by the owner there, Gazzari's, and we played the Roxy and the Whiskey, and we did all that stuff. And Jeff Soto used to come see the band, and he wanted me to play guitar for him. That's how I met him. And he's like, "I'm taking you." He took me to Foundations Forum, which was like kind of like a NAMM show, and it was at the Burbank Airport in like a Marriott. They did it every year. It was called Foundations Forum, and it was all for rock musicians and all different kinds of things. It's like a mini NAMM show. And he took me and started like introducing me as his guitar player. And I was like, "Dude, I have a band. I can't do it." Even though I wanted to play with him, but we became really good friends. And then years later, when I got the gig singing for Boogie Nights in New York, he called like during that time and was like, "Hey, I got this great gig. You could come out and play for my original band, and you could play guitar for Boogie Nights, man, because we always need guitar players." And I was like, "Dude, I just got the gig singing in New York." He was like, "Oh, you're the singer that got the gig?" I was like, "Yeah." So that's what kind of started the whole singing thing. But
amazing. Yeah. That's what amazes me about you. Like, you don't even put this stuff out there. Just like, I play guitar for Jeff Scott Soto. Just casually.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even out there.
Yeah. And then years later, his band, we had Body and Soul, his band Slam was rehearsing at the rehearsal studio that I worked at. Our manager owned it, and it was called Studio D. And Jeff had a band called Slam, which was really, really good. Yep. And they were rehearsing there. So we were always friends. We were always like just stayed buddies, And then I sang with him one time on stage during a Boogie Nights reunion thing. And we sang Boogie Oogie Oogie, and he sang a verse, and then I sang a verse, and his voice sounded about that big, and then my voice sounded about that big.
He's got a big voice. He's
and
got a
I'm
big
just
voice. Huge, man.
Huge. And he towered over. I mean, he was like, I'm on stage with him. He's like 6'5", big dude. And just always just a sweetheart. Always been super cool.
Yeah.
Been really, really cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. So same thing as the like how do you know Ralph as well?
Same thing. Boogie Nights. Yeah, he was the singer for, I say Boogie Nights, but it was Perfect World Entertainment, and they would name different bands, Night Fever, Boogie Nights, but I just put it under the umbrella. And he was one of the singers. And then when I got out after the original band thing, I moved back to Connecticut, and then I started singing, and then I got involved in Boogie Nights and all up and down the East Coast. I did Chicago, and then about 5 years later, I moved back to California, and I was singing for the Boogie Nights and doing stuff. And then every once in a while, they go, "Hey, we need a guitar player for a gig," and I knew the guitar gig, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll play." And that's how I met Ralph. So Ralph will pick you up, and we'll go. Me and would go down to San Diego and do this gig, and it was so much fun because we would all switch instruments during the night. Because Ralph's a wicked guitar player.
Really?
Really, really good. Yeah. And so we would switch it, and he would just make me laugh. And Russ Parrish, sometimes I would sing, and Russ Parrish would be on guitar. And so it was like just these incredible musicians, and we would switch off playing and just getting drunk and having a blast. And yeah, Ralph was just one of those. He was so good, and we'd always listen to metal on the way down. He loved Dokken. And we would like listen to Dokken and stuff on the way down to gigs. And yeah, he just was one of those guys, like when Metal Shop needed a singer during the time, like he got sick, I just cut my hair. The day I cut my hair, I had long hair for 20 something years. I'm 32, 33 years old. And I decided, you know what? I'm getting a haircut. I'm done. Get it chopped, right? I go to this punk salon kind of thing, and I get all spiky and short. And I'm walking out of this is a true story. This is really weird. And I'm walking out of the hair salon, and I get a phone call from the manager from PWE, and he's like, "Daniel, you know the Metal Shop stuff?" And I go, "Singing?" He's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah, I know a few of the stuff." "Okay, you're singing tonight. Ralph's sick." Click. Just hangs up the phone. "Oh, no." And he goes, "Oh, you'll be fine. You don't need a wig." Click. And I was like, called him back, and he's like, "All right, just call. Russ will have an extra wig for you. Just get one from Russ." So that's what started me singing for Metal Shop, and I did that for a long time. So
that's amazing. I've seen you do the Whitesnake stuff with that, which you do a great job of.
Yeah, that was fun. That was
a lot of that stuff's not easy to sing. It's those kind of character voices.
You always got to try and put a little bit on. Like Ralph, amazing. I don't know if you ever heard him do David Lee Roth, but it's
of course, yeah.
He's
got to be his guy, right?
That's his dude. Yeah. It's unbelievable. And he for me, when I would do that gig, I couldn't really sound like anybody. Like I didn't know really, but I just do my best. I would just try and actually sing the songs. But like Crazy Train, where Ralph does a great imitation of Ozzy. It's hilarious and amazing at the same time. And that was
Ozzy in a nutshell.
That was the song I hated to sing. Oh yeah, totally hilarious. We would do Crazy Train, and I couldn't stand singing it because I hated where it was. It was on F sharp the whole time, and I was like, "Get me out of F sharp! I don't want to sit on this note." It was horrible. Yeah. And then, but yeah, whereas singing a couple other songs where you get over the bridge and you're like, a little relief. This feels better. And funny enough, doing Metal Shop one time, doing that Whitesnake stuff, doing the show at Vegas at a place it's called Vamps now. It used to be called Dr. Feelgoods, and that was Vince Neil's son managed it. Vince owned it, and he owned. So we would play there once in a while. There's a recording from that Still the Night, and that's from that club.
Okay.
And it was so funny because I used to joke when we would do a Vince tune, Shout the Devil, a couple Live Wire, or something else. I would always do a joke of Vince, like a real over the top joke, like here's a bullshit on the stage, and then I go and I would do like funny noises, fart noises and shit during that high. So we're finished up, and all of a sudden the manager, who was Vince's kid, comes backstage, and I'm getting changed like in the closet where the power amps are, and I hear, yeah, of course, and I hear, "Where's the singer?" I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like I made fun of his dad. He's gonna be pissed. So I come out, and he goes, "Man, I got to tell you something." I'm like, what's up? And he's like, that was the funniest and best impersonation I've ever heard of my dad. Like, you nailed it and you made fun of it. And I was like, thanks. It's just funny because that wasn't like, he's not like a singer I strive to be, but just that was a guy I would try and mimic, and it just kind of worked, you know. And I would like over the top it, you know.
Yeah,
that's funny.
That's something I've never been able to do. Put on the voice. Give me something, I'll sing it. But in terms of actually doing the character voice and stuff,
your Paul Rogers is pretty spot on.
Well, that's what I started doing. I had multiple projects trying to do that, but that was more just because I didn't know how to do anything else.
But I mean,
that's intentional.
But spot on. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're gonna sound like anyone, like if I could tell whenever I talk, for singers, who should I listen to? Well, what do you like? I like R&B or soul. Stevie Wonder. He's got really good technique. You'll be able to hear the technique in his voice.
Yep.
I like rock. Paul Rogers. Like, that's go-to.
The voice of rock. He was the first one that I actually, like, when you're taking lessons, or you probably have students have the same thing. Like, you try to give them advice or whatever, and they just can't hear it in their favorite singers. So there's not that incentive to do it, because they're like, but my favorite singer doesn't do this. Paul Rogers was the first one that I actually hear, oh shit, he's actually doing that. Wait, let me try that. And it clicked, and I got the same sound. I'm like, I've been going about this the whole wrong way. And doing that song study is something I started doing with Chris Cornell and those kind of things, rather than hearing the sludgy guitars and the great song and the wild singing. You actually hear what they're doing, and you're like, oh, I can do that. But it gets filtered through like a record, and you get compressors and all this stuff. But if you really hear what they're doing, it's pretty easy to work out how to do that in your own voice. But just not the character thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed. I mean, you nailed him. It's like hearing you sing, I'm like, oh, that sounds nice. That's cool.
Well, I couldn't, I couldn't sing like Steve Marriott, so Paul Rogers was my next choice.
Yeah, but nobody ever sounded like Steve Marriott. Maybe, like, I think back, like, if I could think of guys that maybe sounded like Steve Marriott, rock guys. Remember that singer from like Nazareth?
Yeah.
Like, he had that thing.
Dan McCafferty?
Was that the name of it? What was their song? What was the real? There was the real famous song. It was real super high.
Not Love Hurts?
Yeah, Love Hurts. That's it. And his version of it, it's like, and you hear, I bet Marriott was an influence.
Yep.
If I had to go down there and ask him, and he'd be like, yeah, that was an influence.
Well, that's why I keep bothering you about questions about Cry of Love, because I hear Steve Marriott and Paul Rogers and Kelly Holland's voice and those songs. I swear there's even some free riffs on some of those songs.
Oh, there's definitely free.
And Stevie Wonder.
I hear Humble Pie. I hear Free. I hear that all over. That guitar player is that era.
Amazing.
He's that guy.
It was such an amazing record for the 90s too. That first one was really great. So different to the other 90s rock stuff. Black Crowes was a similar thing too. They were just totally straight out of like Allman Brothers, the band, all those kind of bands, which I love. And you got Alice in Chains here, which I also love that stuff, because that stuff all came out when I was in high school. But then you got those bands doing the really throwback thing, and everyone's like, oh, I've never heard anything like it. You heard Humble Pie? It's the same thing, right?
I don't know if I got the Bad Company Free thing from Cry Love. I definitely got that.
Yep, totally.
As with Badlands, I kind of got the Bad Company Free Whitesnake thing from them.
Totally.
Because Ray just had that. I mean, he was, to me, he was my favorite guy of that era.
Yep.
Someone was a big guy. It'd be him for singing rock singers of that era. It's him or King's X, the singer.
Yep.
That dude.
Yep.
He had that. I saw them live a couple times, and his voice was amazing because he would come out and it'd be rusty, just like just not making it.
It'd get better through the show.
And, dude, as the night went on, it was like, oh my God.
That's what warm-ups are for.
Yeah, I saw him in Providence, and it was just like he came out, and like me and my buddy were like, I don't know, is he going to make it tonight? I don't know. He sounded rough. And then by the end of the night, you're like, what can he sing?
Yep.
Yeah, he was one of those guys.
The guy that really started it for me was Fogerty, John Fogerty.
Yeah.
Dad had a Creedence cassette in the old like van or whatever, and just played that to death. And I hated it when I was a kid because he played it so much. But then just when I started playing guitar, I was like, hang on, I can play this. And then the voice, you try and sing, you're like, I can't sing like that.
No.
At all.
No,
and
he's So
live
you
stuff. You see some
perfect.
live stuff from that time, and he's just standing there bopping along with the little bowl haircut with that freaking voice coming up. What? I want to do that with a better haircut.
Did you see the Netflix the documentary?
It's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
No.
so it's great because it shows the concert. Is it 71 in London? And yeah, it's just great because it's these four guys. They're not doing anything fancy. It's just four chords, and then he sings perfect. And it's live, and it's like, wow, it just makes you think like, I remember seeing a band, I'm not going to say the band, but I remember seeing a band open for Lenny Kravitz at Universal Studios and probably in the 90s when this band was still pretty popular. And they opened for Kravitz, and it's a 4-chord band, and they were horrible. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, how? How are you goofing this up? Whereas like Creedence was like, we're not going to goof this up. We're going to be perfect. It's like, this is all we have to do. You do your job. Rhythm guitar, you do your job. Bass player, do your job. It was like everyone's doing their job. And it makes you realize that's what a band should be.
He was a taskmaster too. Like all their records sound that way because he had such a clear view of what he wanted and getting the right sound and what he wanted everyone to do. And you can see it when they play live too. Like everyone's trying to, I mean, it's fucking John Fogerty. Like, he sounds like that. You're gonna listen to him. You're gonna do what he says, right? Like,
yeah, yeah. It's funny that San Diego gig I was saying that I used to play with Ralph. That gig is where I saw a live. I remember I was upstairs at the bar because the club was downstairs, and I happened to be upstairs getting a drink or whatever. And on the big, it's like a sports bar during the week, and on big screens was some DVD of Fogerty from the 90s, like really good, DVD shot, like really. And I remember going, he sounds amazing. Like, how is he singing like that?
Yeah.
Like it was nothing.
The thing that amazes me about that is the amount of songs that he wrote. It was like Creedence would get together for like 3 years. 3 or 4 years or something, and every single one of those songs was
outsold the Beatles.
Him. Yeah,
they outsold the Beatles.
And he didn't play those songs again for 20 years. Didn't play those songs again for 20-something years, and even now he's kind of cagey about it, I think. Crazy stuff. There's such amazing songs. There's even a few of those songs that I think people don't realize are Creedence songs. I think they're Tina Turner songs.
Yeah.
It's a John Fogerty song. You got to play your songs, man. Like, just get out there and do it, which he's doing. Which is great. Great guitar player too. His guitar playing really kicked my ass too. I love his guitar playing.
Yep.
Really do. It's
all
doesn't
the
get the props for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Always
Steve Marriott too. He's a great guitarist. Really. Yeah. Probably the best guitarist in the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you think that is? What do you think that is? Well, Frampton's great too. He's also a great singer too. What do you think that is? Like guitarists, like a lot of singers come from that kind of background. Do you think it's something about playing guitar first?
Yeah, I think the being musical. I think that they already have that, like Russ Parrish.
Yep.
Russ Parrish, guitar player for Steel Panther. He was in Fight with Rob Halford before that, and like I said, he used to do the disco. I was in an original band with him as well, and being as musical, he wrote. He had a band called the Thornbirds and the Ducks. The Ducks, and I thought, but go listen to him sing, and you're just like, he was one of my favorite singers. In early 2000s, I was like, Russ, I can't put down this stuff. Like, your voice is cool, like super, because he doesn't care. Like, it's almost like he didn't care. He just, I hear the sound in my head. That's just like he hears all he has to do is listen to a riff once, a solo, like, and he'll just go, and play it. He doesn't have to like sit there and stop, play. No, he just goes, oh yeah. I think he hears the sound that he wants to hear when he's singing as well, and he puts it out there.
The right way. Richie Kotzen's another one that really blows me away as well. Obviously, his guitar playing's obviously insane, but
another one.
He's singing. It's just like, really, you can sing like that as well? Like, what the hell, man? Like, and really great. And it comes from that soul thing. I listen to soul singers. I think that's his voice in a nutshell. People hear it as a rock thing, but it's not heavy on the top or anything. It just lives up there.
It's interesting. He's had a couple surgeries though. He had, I think, two. He had two surgeries, which I find interesting.
It's the air. It's way too much
air to it. Yeah.
It's more that he's not digging into it. Like digging into your voice is partly a necessity. Like you'll get a stronger sound, and your vocal folds will naturally sit. Whereas if you're kind of on that edge, your voice doesn't really get to that relaxing point where you get natural vibrato, and you're always slightly working the voice, and it's waiting for the release that never comes.
Yeah.
It's what Adele's another one. It's a similar issue, I think.
Air.
Just some of the
That
airiness.
makes sense. That makes sense.
And the onset, she's got a really hard onset on a lot of stuff. She's a great singer, too, but that onset, just every time I hear it, I'm like, oh man, ouch.
Well, that's like one of those things.
That's when I hear it.
Like those singers, like Cotton, like he's not like Russ, like Adele. They have like the gift of the instrument.
Yeah,
like we I think a lot of times, like you get students as we get students, and they come and they go, well, I want to, and I'm like, look there's a guitar right there, and there's a guitar right there, and I could play the same chords acoustically, and they sound entirely different. The acoustic space is different. Everything acoustically is a little bit different.
Totally.
And it's like, you got to remember, there's a kind of like beauty of tone, like, seeing a woman that's beautiful, and you just go, that's a gift. That's a gift. Congratulations.
You can't get that.
John Mayer had a great quote. He said, "Congratulations on your face." Like, like everybody will pretty much go, "That's a pretty face," right? And there's certain voices, the same thing. You hear them on the radio, and you go, whether or not you like the music, you might just go, God, what a beautiful sounding instrument. I heard it.
That's it.
I watched Avatar, the new Avatar, the other night on music or Christmas Eve, and the woman in the movie sings a song as she's doing this kind of like rosary beat type thing, and I'm like, what a beautiful tone.
Yeah.
Like that's just hands down a beautiful tone. Yep. And I think my first real in person was, I saw friends of mine call me one night, and they were like, hey, we're going to see Seal at the Grammy Museum. Yep. You want to go? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun, because you only get like 100 people in the room. It's a small little room. It's a nice tuned room, but they're using 58s, and it's just a small PA. It's nothing major. About 100 people in the room. It was him and David Foster. Yep. And they talked, and then they said, oh, let's play some music. So I sit back, and he opens his mouth for the first song. And I mean, if he was looking at me, I'm sorry, Seal. If he was looking at me, this is what he saw as I was watching. And I'm like, third row, right there. And you see my face just go like this. He hits the first 3 notes, and I just go, like, of course, like it does. You can't teach this. This isn't taught. It sounded like the microphone was in his throat, dangling in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if he looked at my face, he must have been, oh my God, this guy thinks I suck. No, I was like, whatever. He's got a Les Paul. He's got a 59 gold top in his throat.
Yeah. Well, that's it. But that's what makes it so amazing. Someone else can learn to do what he's doing, and it won't sound the same. No. It won't sound as nice, No. Which is, I think, the thing that people love about their favorite singers is just because I always say to people, like, I mean, Seal's not trying to sing like Seal. He's just singing. Yeah. So if you want to do what he's doing, just sing, and don't try and sing like him, because that is the opposite of what he's actually doing. Because you obviously get people that have a favorite singer, and they just won't accept anything except for, but he does this thing, and they're sending you like isolated recordings. Like, look at that sound he makes there. And I'm just like, well, he's not trying to do that. It happened, and he did it, and he managed it, and he doesn't do it again. You don't need to learn to make that sound to sound like him or sing what he's doing. You got to be you. And that's what you'll do good things, you'll do other things won't work. And, that's what all my favorite singers are all completely different. I like tons of different weird shit from Stevie Wonder, and Ann Peebles is a massive one for me. She's so aggressive. What she sings just kicks my ass, man. It's like listening to a hard rock singer singing for a soul band. Amazing. But then I also like really heavy stuff as well. And it's because they're all them. You can't beat them. You can't get that, No. Les Paul in the throat. Or not.
That's it. That's what it's like. It's like when I heard that sound, I was like, wow. Because it literally was a 58. It was nothing special. There was no special processing gear or nothing. It was just.
That's it, right?
He was singing some Sam Cooke tune. I think it was probably a Sam Cooke or Otis tune, because he had done the soul record at the time. That's what they were doing. Yep. And I was just like, wow. Like, oh man, it bummed me out. And I was so happy I was there, but also like, went home, and I was just like probably super depressed, going, God, it's like. And people say, why you envy people? You have your own voice. Yeah, but you grow up. Hey, when I grew up, I wanted to play guitar like somebody. I didn't just.
Well, exactly. Right.
I didn't just pick up the guitar and go, I want to be me. No, some people are lucky like that.
Who was your guitar guy?
I had a local hero named Jimmy Bell.
Yep.
He was, there was guys I liked. I mean, I was a huge, early, I was a huge Hendrix, Clapton,
Yep.
Kind of those guys. I didn't know where to start. Prince was huge. I went through a huge Prince phase.
Yep.
And then Yngwie came out and I heard all those guys like, oh God. And then Jimmy Bell was like, you could just do anything. You could just do anything. Literally, like he did all this Holdsworth type stuff. And then he would turn around and play Johnny Winter licks. And he's known for his super fast picking. So he would pick everything, but not like Yngwie. Everything was alternated picking. Even when he was doing these, it would sound like sweeps. No, he was picking every note.
Yep.
It was really cool. And I saw him in person at a drum clinic. He was just playing guitar with the drummer. And I was like, I got to meet this guy. I got to get lessons with, because I knew he was local. Yeah. Yeah. And I, studied with him and practiced 6 hours a day till I was about 21. And I was like, I'm done with this. I can't, I'm never going to get that good. So I'm finally done with this. Stevie Ray Vaughan, huge. That was huge.
You're a great guitarist, man. You got to give yourself more props for that. I've seen you play some stuff. It's amazing.
Thank you. But it's like, it was very frustrating road. And I always knew I wanted to be a singer and I just didn't. People told me, oh, you have a good background singer voice. So I just figured, oh, that's a thing.
Is that what they call a backhanded compliment?
I guess. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm a background singer. So I just did that until when that band finally broke up, because I already been through a few bands and then that band was the big one. And then I was like, that's it. I'm going to learn how to sing, or I'm going to try, It's been
I was a placeholder. I was just a placeholder as a singer. And maybe I still am. That's why I started doing it. We didn't have one. And that's why I started doing it. I was just wanted to be a guitarist.
Really?
And same
so
thing.
You didn't, when you were growing up, you didn't, like when you first got into guitar, you didn't go, well, I really want to be a singer. You just.
No way. No way. I couldn't stand being in front of people, or I was the awkward kid. I just sat in the music room instead of going to class.
Yeah, me too.
Just play guitar. I just play guitar. It's all through high school. It wasn't girls or sport or anything. It was just guitar. I was just obsessed. Lunch break, take my guitar, just go and play guitar. Same as like leaving school, that kind of stuff. But then finding a singer for a band like in the late 90s, early 2000s, for what I wanted to do. I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but some heavy metal mixed with free. Who's going to sing that?
Right.
It's not going to work. You tried a bunch of people, didn't work, and I was the placeholder. So I just started singing the covers and blowing my voice out, and it just.
You just got into it.
I just got into it, and then I was kind of found myself spending more time singing than playing guitar, and hadn't picked up the guitar in like months and months and months, and I got the bug. Yeah. Really got it, and that was.
I went through years. I went through a few years not picking up the guitar.
Yeah.
When I started singing straight for Boogie Nights, that company, and we were gigging so much, I was gigging 4 or 5 nights a week. So on the nights off, I was just like, I don't want to even listen to music. I just didn't want to do anything. Yep. I wanted to go out and drink and have a dinner, and I was making great money, so my life was fun, and I was like, I just want to do these other things, because I was always the kid like you. 6 hours after school, during school, after school, it's like same thing. Yeah. And then I didn't pick up guitar until I got back out to California. And then I started getting involved in, like, they would say, hey, can you, I met Joe Retta like that. They were like, hey, the funk gig, Atomic Dogs, that's part of the company. And I was like, I'll learn it. Why? You guys, they need someone. Brian Young was the guitar player for David Lee Roth.
Yep.
And he was also the guitar player for that band. They're like, Brian's going on the road with Dave for 6 weeks. We need someone to fill. And I was like, I'll do it. And then I met Joe Retta, who's one of my favorite singers.
Yep.
So check that dude out if you haven't.
I will. I know the name, but.
Yeah, he did a Dio tribute. I mean, he's just saying, he did a Paul Rogers tribute. I showed you his Paul Rogers.
Yeah, you did. That's where I know it from. Yeah.
He's one of those.
Amazing.
He just feels the singer and it goes.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So luckily, that's how I met him. So that's when I really started playing guitar again, probably like 2002 or something. Like, okay, I could start playing again.
Yeah, it was. I guess I went through the same thing. Yeah, just when I really got into singing, just kind of stopped playing guitar, and I don't even really play guitar that much anymore either. For the records and stuff that I'm doing. Yeah, absolutely. Pick something up, work out some crazy solo, and don't pick it up for another month.
Wow.
Which is. Yeah, totally different. But
I feel guilty. I feel really guilty.
I feel like I wasted my time in high school practicing.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I'm like,
I could have gone to class.
I tell my wife, I'm like, I got to play more guitar. And I have time. I literally have time. And I just go, I got to do this other thing. It's like, you get older. I'm much older.
Time's the one thing I don't have. We've got babies, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have
no
time. It's just like, I just don't have the drive like I did when I was young. You have that drive. It's like,
that's why I've asked you when you were doing a record or something. When are we seeing the Daniel Formica record coming out, man? Got to do something.
I was just saying that to someone the other day. It's like, I did original projects after that band.
Yep.
So we're talking 90, that band ended in 94.
Yeah.
So I played guitar for my buddy Joe, who was a fantastic guitar player at a band called Joe, singer. And I played rhythm guitar for him, but he wrote everything. And I would just come up with some extra rhythm parts for him. And I got to play CBGBs and some cool clubs in New York, which that's really cool. And then I did this original band with Darren, from the drummer from Steel Panther, Russ on guitar. We had a band called the Donkey Experience, Donkey. And it was all Darren wrote everything. The drummer from Steel Panther wrote everything. And we played a few gigs and had a couple different lineups, but it was pretty much I played rhythm guitar, Russ played lead, and then we had this other guy, Jimmy Olsen, play lead, and he played bass at first, then he switched to lead because I just wanted to play rhythm. I was like, I don't want. After playing with Russ, I'm like, I'm not playing any solos. There's no way. He's a beast. So, and that was fun, but again, that wasn't I didn't have a lot of creativity involved with that. I was just learning Darren's tunes and doing the best I could, singing background, all that.
Yep.
I want to say that's the last original thing I did. That's like 2003, 4, 5.
That's a long time ago, man. I love your voice, man. I really, really do. I think it's fantastic. I think we had a conversation somewhere. We had a conversation a while ago about this, like people wanting to hear a certain kind of voice or something. Like is that what you think? Like you got a specific kind of voice and it's not like what people are looking for, or what is that?
Yeah,
you're amazing, man.
I don't know. Like I just did a song for a friend of mine, an old song, which I love. And I'm honored to be on this. And it's huge for me to be playing with this guy. It's like a dream. But when I listen back to my take, it's one of his old songs. And I just go, I like the original singer on it. I don't like me on it. I'm just like, there's not much I could do to it. Yeah. The original singer on it was built for his voice. It sounded great. He had like a Steve Perry-esque voice, and it just worked. And when I listen to mine on it, I'm just like, I sound so stale and straight. And it's just like, I don't know. I can't really, it just bums me out, and I don't really, I don't know. And I don't have the drive, the drive to sit and write lyrics. Are you kidding me? I probably sound like a 3-year-old writing lyrics.
Probably my least favorite part of it is lyrics.
That's tough.
Just write stuff as veiled as you possibly can so people think you're deeper than you really are. That's my trick. Great metaphors. I'm just like, no, it's just shit that doesn't really make any sense. It's kind of like guitar solos.
A great concept for a record, though. It's actually funny.
It's the first one I did with Dead Spirit Community it's kind of like that. It's like, heavy metal imagery or whatever, but all the songs are about growing plants and growing vegetables. Every single song. I've got songs of that. Yeah, every single song. Ritual, nothing means anything. They're actually about growing vegetables and growing plants with the heavy metal imagery. And they're just like, people are like, this is such fucking hard stuff. He's such a dark guy. Like, I'm growing strawberries, man.
It is. It's not a potato.
That's all it is. I don't know what else to write. That's what I spend my time doing.
A bunch of root vegetables.
If you hear one of those songs now, you're not going to be able to hear it the same.
Oh,
no one will.
Funny. Now I can't wait to go. I'll go listen. I'll listen with that in mind now.
You'll be having a good laugh at me.
Oh,
definitely the hardest thing, lyrics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't like doing covers. I that's why I never did them on the channel until the last couple of years for that reason, because people don't want to hear. Like, I don't want to hear Creedence songs with someone else singing. To be honest, I'd rather just listen to John Fogerty. I would rather listen to Robert Plant sing Zeppelin than someone else do it. So, people are always going to be unhappy with it.
Thing though, I like how you did that. You did like one a month or something, right?
Yeah, I mean
that was
cool.
Well,
that's what I was doing. Yeah, well, that's what I did. Well, that's how I did that first record too. It wasn't going to be a record. It was just for the channel because I was like, I don't know what else to videos to do for you guys, so I'm just
Yeah.
going to write a song every month, and did it for a year, and then I did it with covers the following year, and just did it my own way. I think it's the only way to do it. If you try and sound too close to someone doing a cover, people are going to pick it apart,
Yeah.
and I don't know. You just got to be you with it, and people won't realize you probably can't do the same thing the original singer can do. You're just being you, like it's the only way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only certain songs you're gonna fit in, and then otherwise, people are like, you don't sound like them. There'll be certain songs you're like, wow,
Exactly.
you really sound close there. That's really good. And then you sound anything like them.
Yeah, I mean YouTube cracks me up in general, but depending on what style of video I'm doing. But if I do like I did one on Peter Steele, like he basically sings D2 and C2 for a living. I did a video like that, and people are like, oh wow, you got such a low voice, and then you sing Chris Cornell stuff, and they're like, oh, you're like castrato, man. That's the only reason you can sing that stuff. Like, hang on, motherfucking videos. Like, what the hell, man? Like,
you're a castrata.
People always filter it through whatever they think they're not or whatever. So that's tricky with covers. I try not to let it get to me, but
yeah.
I mean, the songs you're doing with the high range, like recently too. You posted up one of you doing Jane recently. It's amazing. You just live in that range. Blows me away every time I hear you singing in that range.
Well, what we talked about is that we talked like a couple weeks ago when I got together and asked you how you look at the high notes and stuff, and like, my voice sits nice, I guess, around, if I'm doing like my scales, my warm up, and like I'm just warming up to like high C, that feels good. Yep. But a lot of those songs go above, and my voice doesn't feel good.
Okay.
And so I start to question it. And when I don't, like, dude, this last couple of weeks has been hilarious. Like, I can't even sing through my set that I have to sing with different bands. Yep. And I'm like, what is going on? And then today, right before we got on, I was like telling my wife, I'm like, I got to get through Jane. Like, I got a gig coming up, and they're expecting me to do really good on that. And I got through it, but I don't know why. Like, it's funny. I just go, it ain't different. It just happened to work.
It's there. Your voice is a tool of expression. The way you feel about stuff makes it act in different ways. Hence why there's all the metaphors and shit for stuff that never worked for me, but I get it now. If you're, it's like a double-edged thing. You can either think of them thinking, man, they're expecting me to do really well, and that's going to make you do really well because you think of it, or it's going to make you not do it well because you think you're not going to do it well, and then your voice does some bizarre thing completely different.
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking. It's
I mean, like I was going to ask you in the questions I sent you, like what's it like singing with those kind of guys? Like I imagine that would be nerve-wracking in and of itself, like.
Yeah, it is. And because sometimes what's great about it is I love it. I love that I got that gig. It's super fun to have that. It's called the World Classic Rockers, and who it's with, and having that Aynsley Dunbar on drums. I mean, I was a huge fan as a kid. I really was a fan, like no joke,
Yep.
And same with the the dude from Skinnerd and Randall, and I'm a fan, and it didn't hit me until like 4 or 5 gigs in, and then I was like chilling backstage, not during my part of the night, and I was like watching, and I was like, holy shit, like I'm playing with these guys I listened to as a kid. This is awesome. This is super cool, but it's super stressful because I know how I can be replaced like this. You know what I mean? I can easily be replaced. So I just go, we had a meeting recently. We had like a Zoom meeting with everybody on the thing, and they were being really nice, and they were like, man, you did such a good job on the last gig. The Jane was killer, blah, blah, blah. And that's that live one.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I'm glad you guys saying thank you. But so that means on the next gig, if it's not there, please don't hold it against me. It's like, it's not like I'm not practicing. I'm in here practicing every day.
These are not normal songs. They're not normal songs to sing.
Yeah.
By the way, like the stuff you're singing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make them as good as I can, to the artist and hit. I don't, even Mickey Thomas, who's amazing, still sings amazing to this day.
Yep.
He, if I watch 10 videos of him singing Jane from, 2022 all the way back to 70s.
Oh, it's the same. Sounds the same.
It's the same, but he isn't always at the high notes.
Yeah.
He'll avoid some of the E's because there's a lot of E5s, and he will avoid them. but not always. But there's been a couple. I'm like, okay, because I feel like I can't avoid them. I have to do it. I have to get that. If I don't nail it and cleanly and perfect, and it's one thing to sit here and go through that through a scale. I can do it. But it's another thing to be
on stage.
Singing on stage, and it just we're using in-ears, which I don't even like anymore. I've been using them for years, but I don't like them much anymore because I sing a lot different than I did when I was younger. So now I'm like, I'd much rather not have them, but we have to have them. So it's like that. I'm like, you could see me fussing through a whole night. It's like one ear in, one ear out. Fix this one. Lower this. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
Whereas, and so I know that plays into my mental. You know what I mean? And you know, I want to get it better. You know, and
practice at home. Practice at home with in-ears.
Oh, I do. I have a garage set up with a PA and my in-ears.
Nice.
And I do the whole thing. I'll pull one ear in, one ear out, and I'll play karaoke tracks blasting through the PA. My neighbors must hate me. It's blasting on a million, and I'm singing like I am at a concert, but it doesn't always, it's still the comforts of my own home.
Yeah.
It's not a live band, you know?
That's it.
And the one thing I'll say, playing with like a guy like Aynsley, which another thing that was really eye-opening was the professionals, the guys that are the pros still practice. Like Aynsley still, he's one of the only ones during the night backstage in his own little room. Sometimes he'll have his own little thing, and I'll hear click, click, click. You know, I hear him doing this, and I'm like, there it is. And I'm trying to find a room to do my scream my head off. I'm trying to find a closet or a hallway or a kitchen.
Rolled up towel is the trick.
Yeah, I do the rolled towel. Yep. It's like it's the only thing about the rolled up towel. It feels different when I sing, so I get used to that back pressure.
Yep.
And I feel this. Oh, this is easy. And I'm all the way up to where I got to go, and then I go take that away, and it's like it doesn't feel like that. So I have to watch it. Like I have to like kind of balance that with a couple, you know, screams and higher chest things.
I actually got that. Funnily enough, I actually got that one from Kelly Holland of Cry of Love. There was an interview I bought that when it came out. There was like a interview thing with it, interview CD or something with it. And he was like, yeah, man, they'd all hang out beforehand, except for him. He'd spend like an hour screaming into a towel. Like, I've got to try that.
Yeah. No,
Perfect warm up.
Two of my best friends growing up, my first bass player, Mike Duda, and Doug Blair Lusek Blair, both play for Wasp, the guitar player and bass player and guitar player. And Doug tells me that's how Blackie warms up every night to a C sharp.
That's all about the back pressure. That's all about the compression. His voice amazes me.
Oh yeah,
I love those, especially those first couple of Wasp records are really really great. But his voice, that's a character voice that I'm just like, what? I can't even pinpoint what that is.
Yeah, it's a trip.
No idea.
And he still nails it. Yeah, and Doug says he's on the bus in the back room by himself, and you hear him
working it out.
He's just doing it up to the C. He works out to the C sharp, and then he goes, "Okay, let's go," and then they're ready to go.
Amazing. He lives in that range too. He just lives up in that range. Amazing. Yeah, and then Paul Rogers doesn't warm up. Glenn Hughes doesn't warm up. None of those guys. They just go out and they do their thing. It's just those guys amaze me. They're doing something that's.
Glenn Hughes, like, how do you not warm up? I mean, he's in the stratosphere all the time. All the. Paul doesn't go to the stratosphere. He's got his area that he's just like perfect. You know,
the Bad Company stuff was higher. There's higher stuff on that first Bad Company record than Free. The Free stuff's not very high, but he
sounds high.
He's singing differently. He sounds more like a tenor on that Bad Company stuff, but you hear him talk and his voice is, more like mine. He just got better and better. He's even better now. If you see some live stuff of him now,
so good. I'm
in disbelief that he's never taken training because his choices are they're the choices you want people to make. They're the choices you want to make, and he's just like, I guess it's why would you make any other choices once you found that sound? I guess is probably his thing.
He said, when I was a kid, when I was working telemarketing, I told you that story. You
did.
I called him he was on a radio show in LA. Amazing. I don't know what the radio, probably K-Rock at the time. And I knew he was on there, and I called and I got in and I just said, hey, and here I am, still a guitar player, but that's what I asked. I was like, you study with anyone? Do you want to? And he goes, I drink a beer and I listen to, I sing a lot of Muddy Waters and old blue stuff.
Amazing. That's the trick, right?
Answer. That was the trick. I'd be the Pavarotti of that stuff.
I've drunk plenty of beer in my time. I don't sound like
Yeah,
Paul
that
Rogers.
doesn't
It's
seem
got to
to-
be some. Yeah, it's got to be some magic trick
something
he's
in
doing.
the beer.
Something
Maybe,
in the beer.
yeah. I mean, I'd probably drink a Guinness. Maybe that's maybe that's the take.
Yeah, could be. I think it's
Mickey-
also what I also think it's what people grow up listening to. Like he would have listened to all the R&B and soul stuff from the '60s and church stuff or whatever, and then
Yeah,
that
he
makes
said
you
Muddy
sing.
Waters was his thing.
Yeah.
Muddy Waters, Howlin'
Yeah.
Wolf. That was who.
That's going to make you sing very differently than if you grow up listening to Van Halen. Yeah, you're going to end up singing even before you ever take a lesson or ever sing. You've got this thing in your brain of how a singer should sound.
Yeah.
If you grew up listening to Aretha Franklin, you kind of get to sing like Paul Rogers. That's kind of that's what I hear when I hear him. I hear those kind of soul singers. He's not even doing it intentionally. I don't think. I think it's just how he thinks people sing. No one sings like him. But
have you heard Marcus King?
I have, yeah. I get people.
Yeah.
ringing
So when you listen to him, he says, he never took lessons. He said he just listened to Aretha Franklin, Janis Joplin, and that's who he sounds like. He sounds like Marriott, man. Actually, he sounds like a young Marriott.
Yep.
Super high, easy singing for him, and it's just like really high, and it's got that wind on it. It's got the high sizzle. It's beautiful. He's one of my new favorites. Him and Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, you brought him up a few times. So what do you think that is? What do you think he's doing? He's so on point.
With him, it's posture.
Live.
Yeah. I think he probably has. Oh, there's something I learned about him. I think maybe he doesn't have perfect pitch, or maybe he doesn't know. But I've challenged people. I said, go find me a clip of Chris Stapleton off, and I'll give you a free vocal lesson. If one of my students, I go, if I talk about him, I said, and they say, well, I don't think he's that good. I'm like, find me a back clip, free vocal lesson.
He's always on point.
No, it's never off. I've looked at everything, and I come to find out, I think it has to do with because he's really smart. He was the valedictorian of his high school.
Okay.
And then he got like a free ride to 2 different colleges, maybe Kentucky State or something like that, and somewhere else, to be I want to say some kind of science-based engineer or something. I forget. I heard there's an interview out there. You can listen to him talk about it. And then he just realized, oh, you can write songs and make a living? Like no one, he goes, no one told me. So I just started doing it.
That's amazing.
When I watch him, I think the key to his success in singing is obviously his intent, but it's his posture. It never moves. He's holding the guitar on, and he's not stiff, but he's not slumped, and you never see him go, nothing. It's always just like, and he'll the high note, and he'll just scrunch to hit a rat, and then his back to mouth is really not opening, no big openings, like doing all the right things, and just to me, it's his posture. It's just, it doesn't move.
The other guy that gets me is Greg Allman, especially the '70s stuff. I'm a big Allman Brothers fan, but that voice coming out of that guy sitting there without even moving his face, like he's had a stroke or something.
Beautiful.
Just amazing, man.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. And yeah, his organ playing's amazing, but yeah. The '70s stuff, plus also there's Shades of Two Worlds. There's a record from the '90s which is really great with Warren Haynes, who also kicks my ass as a guitarist and a singer too. Amazing.
And a singer. Yeah.
Government Mule's amazing singer too. He comes from that Greg Allman school, I think. Obviously being in the Allman Brothers, but his guitar playing's amazing. That band is amazing. As a whole. They remind me of those kind of, guys like Chris Stapleton kind of remind me of those kind of guys as well. Like
I could tell that's definitely an influence, I would think. Allman's definitely got to be one of his influences.
Yeah, they were a big one for me. Greg Allman's a big one for me. He's also got that soul kind of thing going on early on. Big one.
What about St. Paul and the Broken Bones?
Don't know the name. Hey, you were telling me last time. It's on my list.
So you gotta go listen. That guy, looking at him and going, that voice is coming out of that dude. It's insane. It's really good.
There is something to the there is something to the screechier high range that makes it so easy to sing. Like not that Steve Marritt's easy, but if you see Angry Anderson with Rose Tattoo, because I used to see him all the time in Sydney when I lived there, and he's got to be 70 something, and he's kind of a little guy, like, and just it's basically Bon Scott, Brian Johnson notes for the whole set. He doesn't break a sweat. And he's just, he's like, thank you, and just walks off. And it's like, there's something to that sound, I think, that facilitates the high range, that like if you don't have that fear of sounding ever so slightly shrieky in that high range, it comes out so naturally and easy. I hear it in Chris Cornell too. Like,
well, you even, dude, even you. Like when I hear you do your high range, it is. I'm always
there's paint
like
coming off the walls.
but I'm watching you going. It's there all the time, and it's got that sizzle across the top, and I'm like, that's.
I learned it from those guys. I learned it from standing front stage in front of Angry Anderson for a million shows and just seeing this tiny little guy covered in tattoos just shrieking and just not losing his voice and just being the most casual, gentle kind of guy ever. And this fucking voice is coming out of him. Bon Scott too.
Yeah,
same
Bon
thing.
Scott's amazing. But if you asked, I bet you if you asked that dude,
I have asked him.
Oh, you have? What did he say? What was his? I'm just singing in my chest voice.
No,
I'm just belting it out.
He just says, I don't know how to do anything else. Was pretty much the answer I got from him. That's all I know how to do. Was pretty much the only thing he said, and walked off with a beer, and that was it.
Yeah, most people I ask with that type of voice, that just really impress. And then I know they haven't studied. I go, what are you? Oh, I'm just taking my voice up higher.
Yeah, well, that's also Glenn Hughes, because I'm trying to get Neil on the channel too. I've been telling you about it. Apparently he knows Aynsley as well, but he was in a band with Glenn Hughes, I think in the 80s.
Okay.
And he was like an aspiring singer. I think he was told that he was a good backup singer too. I've heard that more than once recently.
It's the worst.
He's great. He's like out there singing like E5s, G5s because he was in a band with Glenn Hughes, and that's just what you do. That's in his brain. But he tried to pick his brain about all that stuff too. And
nothing.
And was just trying to give him vocal lessons. He's like, no, you just sing it higher. It's like, I can't. No, you just do it. You just do it higher. That was the advice. Higher. And just do it higher.
Do it higher.
Just sing it higher. Stop singing so low and sing higher. And you know, amazing. But so on point though. Like if you actually break down what they're doing, it's all the right choices that you'd work with people, or you'd work with yourself to get yourself to do that over such a long period of time. And they make the right choices somehow, which has changed my perspective on it too, because taking training for such a long time and working stuff, building the muscle, not getting anywhere, and then hang on. Paul Rodgers like 17 on that first free record. He didn't spend 15 years like me trying to build muscles here. He just made the right sound, so then you approach it differently. It's definitely a thing.
You bring up a point, and we're going to talk about it in the questions, but like I'm going to ask you. So studying with tons of different teachers like you did, like I did. I studied with tons and tons. Ridiculous. Give me the money back so I can go buy another house, because that's ridiculous. That was a lot of money.
All good in hindsight, to be honest. At the time, I wasn't happy with it, but I've got notes and stuff on it, and I'm like, oh, that's actually the right advice that I didn't take.
Yeah, pieces.
I think it's all mostly on me. Yeah.
But when you, I think it was a lot of it was on me as well.
Yeah.
But here's one. So you took from someone that was an opera singer.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that you got from him that?
Yeah.
Okay, so because I don't want to say it this way because I don't want to get crushed. But like, okay, if I talk with an opera singer, they're not thinking head voice. They're not thinking they're training falsetto or head voice. They're not thinking these things.
No.
Some do. I'm not saying that they all don't, but I'm saying, so with your idea, because I'm watching your videos and talking with you, and you were giving me some advice on some things, with your idea of like, oh no, we're singing from head voice.
Yep.
What was that? His take? Your take? What'd you get from him? What didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. First thing was standing in a room with him and actually hearing the voice 3 meters away from him. It's an impossible thing to describe to someone being in a room with someone like that, and their voice is not really coming out of their mouth.
Right.
It's so odd, and also thinking I was a pretty good kind of shouty Allman Brothers kind of Joe Cocker type singer at the time that I was really doing, and I'm like, man, I'm not doing what he's doing at all.
Right.
That was probably 90% of it. Just realizing that what I was doing was not right and wasn't right. That I wasn't going to get some cheap trick to fix what I was doing. I was just doing everything wrong, I think, was the big thing. But definitely, because I think I definitely took in Chris Cornell. The Super Unknown was a big record for me at the time. I took in that. I'm sure vocal teachers love when you bring in Chris Cornell, your first lesson. People just I would have taken in probably Credence. I think I took in Bon Jovi, Springsteen, a couple of other things to him as well. And he just basically had to listen and did it. That was the thing that got me. He just, this massive opera guy with a big
just did
baritone voice, and he just did it on the spot. I'm like, that's not fair, man. Like, he's just like, oh, I hate this stuff. I hate rock. But, here he is singing Spoon Man. First time hearing the song, most likely at 70 something,
Right.
at 200 kilos. Seeing someone do that and not break a sweat and not have to practice for years to get it to happen, that was the big thing. And he just said, man, you got to have a head voice to do this. These boys are all singing in from head voice. And of course I was like, but I don't want to sing. Ooh, I don't want to sing like that. And they're like, but that's where you're going wrong. Like, that's carrying your voice up there. Use that mechanism. And that's where that comes from. Just having someone demonstrate it to me in that way, which is what I try and do. I try and demonstrate stuff and say, hey, look, I'm actually using head voice here. People are going to believe you or not, but I am when I'm doing that. Even from, that F, the F4 up, E4 up, you're using the mechanism of that to get your pitch, using that stretch to get your pitch. It's how it works.
But you don't feel that quite the let go as you would with a pure.
Well, there's none. That's what we were talking about last time. Like that
right.
little connection in there. Like I've always got that connection, or at least I don't first thing in the morning, obviously. But like when I work through it, I've got a process. That connection is what gives me that high range, and it's not really separated into registers. It's not really separated. I'm doing the Chris Cornell thing. It's all connected as one, and that's how you get that sound. It's not about dragging up. It's about not really having the registers. Is probably how it feels, which is a strange way to explain it, I guess. But I hear that when you sing. When you did the Boston cover you did, I hear that in your voice. You got one voice. That's what I hear. One voice.
Well, I think about it that way. Like I practice. I warm up in separate areas.
Yeah, same.
I warm up with separate areas and try and do separate sounds. And then hopefully when I'm done with that warm up, that it's just all one thing. But then sometimes it's lately for me, it's been a guessing game. I was like, oh, come on, man. I just said literally had the best gigs of my life the last couple months. And then all of a sudden the last couple of weeks, I've been like, where did it go? Like
I treat myself as a beginner every day. I get up every morning and I'm like, I'm going to teach myself to sing today. And I do it with that kind of mindset of like, man, I can't sing. And I've got a process of finding it, everything. It's not very exciting. You tick off the boxes, finding the formants, all that boring stuff that work for some people, whatever it is, finding a connection from head down, finding your vowels, finding your space, and you basically tick it off and you don't move past it until you tick that next thing off. And then you get to the same point every day, whether it takes you 2 minutes, whether it takes you an hour. I always get to the same point. I can sing the same stuff. It's just different.
What's your normal time range now for warming up?
Depends. I mean, if I'm singing earlier in the morning, if I'm singing earlier in the morning, like if I've got sessions at 10 in the morning or something like that, probably like 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Later in the day, if I've done a bit of singing during the day, sometimes it's 5 minutes. Depends on what it is, which is funny because I've watched a few of the podcast things on your channel, and a lot of those guys, Jeff Scott Soto is the same. I think Ralph's the same as well. Basically, just going from head voice down. Just find your head voice and bring it down and connect it. And once you connect it, you're golden. You're sweet. You're good to go.
Ralph always used to say, if my little baby isn't there, I know I'm going to have a rough day at it.
That's because he's approaching things from head voice, just not in the way you think, not in the way that people hear it. I know Chris Cornell was the same thing. I had a brief chat with Ron Anderson a long time ago, and he was just like, you need to have a head voice. He sings in head voice, but I'm listening to, Jesus Christ Pose or something, and I'm like, that's not head voice. And then I didn't do it.
I studied with Ron. I studied a few different times with him when I could afford him at the time. Took like a batch, and then I took another batch and another time. Used to make me freaking drive from Orange County. So I used to leave my house at 4 and 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning.
Crazy.
Because he was like was it Woodland Hills? Somewhere in like Woodland Hills, that sort of area. And I would have to come from Orange County. So I would like just get there early and sit at a Starbucks that opened at 5 and just have a cup of coffee or, just sit there and wait until 7. Yep. And then it would go. And so it was always like, man, I can't believe I got to do this. And it was charging an arm and a leg. Yep. But if I showed you my lessons with Ron, everything was very pushed and on his side of the scene. It's very pushed and pressed.
Yep.
And off pitch, and it was kind of a bummer, man. When I look back, I still have them. I'll show you the lessons if you want. I still have the lessons, and it was really hard for me to learn like that because it didn't sound not like when I met Alex and I heard him, and I was just like
totally different, right?
Same exact experience, 3 feet away or whatever. It's like, where's your voice coming from? You got a speaker over there? What's going on? Because it wasn't shouty. It wasn't shouty. It was just a ring. Yeah, it was like a ring around this sound. I was like, where's that coming from? Sounds like there's this. I always tell him it sounded like there was in front of him was a speaker, then it shot out. That's what it sounded like to me. That was my big eye opening because a lot of the other teachers, it just didn't have that. So that's why I was always confused. I was always confused. I mean, I always warmed up my we're gonna always have the semantics talk. I've always warmed up my falsetto, but I kind of think to my detriment, my falsetto personally, the actual falsetto is too strong. That's something that I deal with. I actually think that my falsetto, I remember studying with Seth Briggs even, and he was taking me through exercises and he stopped and he goes, Daniel, in his voice, Daniel, Daniel, I can't tell if you're in mix or falsetto. He goes, your facility for falsetto is very strong. And I was like,
that's also what I said to you. When I was asking you, I was like, hang on, is this the same thing or are we talking two different things here? Because I can't hear it either.
Yeah, because if I think head voice, I just go to a full voice adducted high note.
Yep,
that's
which is
free.
What it is.
That's very
what
free.
It is, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's very free. But yeah, so that's always been a big. It's been kind of an issue. Like I think about and I wrote down a point I wanted to say, which is kind of funny. You were talking about when you sat with your teacher, and then he was like, I don't even like this shit. Well, when I was in high school, something that deterred me from becoming a singer. Yeah. I just figured all singing, you just had it or you didn't.
Oh, of course.
I had this teacher in high school named Miss Benoit, and me and my buddies in my high school band all took, because it was all girls in the class. We're like, it'll be 4 guys. It's 4 dudes and like 20 girls. It'd be awesome to be, So we took the chorus class, and after class, I would stay after with my singer because I wanted him to be better. And I'd be like, let's talk to Miss Benoit about getting you better. And we'd bring Journey, we'd bring Judas Priest, and we'd bring Iron Maiden. And she would go, oh, they're just screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just screaming. So we were just like, all right, Greg, you got to scream, and just hopefully you're going to scream good. That was my introduction. I just figured, Tony Harnell, listen to Tony Harnell, listen to this beautiful voice. Yeah, he's just screaming. It's like, so they just scream good? Yeah, they just scream good. Okay. And that's what I thought. I'm 16 years old, Yeah.
I mean, what else are you going to think?
I just took her advice.
I think the first lesson I ever had, what she told me was that, it's something about, you have to find what your voice suits. Like the range you have now is what you suits. So you can sing, I think Johnny Cash would be a really good one. I took her in Soundgarden. I'm sure I did at the time. She's like, okay, you got the Johnny Cash thing. You could go and do opera and get paid $1,000 a night to sing a D2 if you really want. Go and do that. I'm like, but I want to sing Soundgarden. Like, yeah. But just probably more than one teacher was just like, well, look, your voice doesn't suit it. So why are you trying to sing high? You can't sing high. So why are you trying? You're just gonna sing it in falsetto.
Yeah, same. I got that same advice.
Yeah, it's pretty common. People are still out there giving that advice. That's cool. That's fine. But just not the way I was singing. And yeah, it's all about how you approach it. It's all possible.
I remember a teacher taking me through some scales, and I was just listening to him, just doing exactly what he wanted me to do. Yep. And I was just basically going, mum, 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 and he's like, that's really good. That's how you sing it. And I go, and I told him straight up, because this is when I was making a living as a singer. I'm like, I go, if I go to a gig and sing like that on my top notes, I'm getting fired.
Yeah,
I'm getting fired.
Totally. That's it.
So I would sit there in all my lessons and go through all my scales every day, and then go to my gigs and just scream.
Yep.
As high as I could, and just try. And some nights something would click, and I'd be like, what a really good night that was. And then most of the nights I just didn't, and I'd blow my voice out. I had subs. I always had to get a sub.
Yep.
Same
thing. Yeah, I had that in a recording session with a what do they call it? A pre-deal recording session that we did years ago, and I'd blown my voice out completely. I could sing like 2 notes and I was done. And then I screwed that up. But yeah, One of the big things that Rick made me do was actually write out phonetics. I didn't like doing it for a long time, and I try and I kind of make everyone do it now. Like, because you look at a word, and you've got your accent in your head. There's an Aussie in my head, whether I want there to be or not. I read a word, like, you know, whatever it is. Like,
say the word. Say the word no.
No.
Ner.
No.
Ner.
No.
No. That's no.
No.
Ner.
And you've got more than one sound. No.
Yeah.
There's one sound. We don't finish the end of words. Even words. It's one sound. Mm-hmm. And then you look at lyrics, and then you end up singing like an Aussie. Whereas if you actually like think of things more as phonetics, it ties it in with the vowels you've been practicing, and then you're like, oh man, I'm doing this for a reason, as opposed to practicing ma and then singing, no.
Yeah.
When you actually sing the word and you just sing something totally different, tying them together is huge for me. But that's probably an accent thing more than anything else. It's not that I have an accent. Everyone else has an accent.
Everyone else.
I'm accent free.
But like you said, it's kind of like because we teach online, so we have students from all over the world.
It's amazing.
And you have to start to realize, like, I kind of like, that's my favorite part of teaching nowadays. Is helping someone that has a really, maybe someone from Asia or something that has a really thick accent, but can speak English great, but they have a thick accent. So when they sing, they're pronouncing every little consonant really hard, and they're breaking up the air. And it's like, no, you got to slur.
They're trying to be well spoken in English.
They're trying to. I go, you can't read the lyrics. I'm like, you can't read the lyrics and sing. Yeah. And trying to teach them that is, to me, the funnest part. Like that, I have more fun with that than I do.
I've been getting a lot of people bringing in stuff in Hindi. I don't know why you picked me for that, but it's so much fun because the voice works how it works, and you kind of interpret what sound they're going for, and you can get them to do it. But that's so incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
And a challenge, and the different consonant sounds and different inflections on stuff, and trying to understand how do you actually pronounce that word? Okay, all right, well, we'll go for this. You either get it or you don't learn it. Yeah.
That was going to be one of your questions. And when it comes to like certain, what was the question? You said,
well, I had someone come in with a made up language once. That was probably the most interesting one. Like full on, like just made up words, and just like, how am I supposed to help you with this?
Yeah. If I can't, you know what I mean? Like some of the guys that really want to do the extreme vocals, just because I got my own rasp thing that I can kind of teach. I teach people how to do that. And I go, okay, that's cool. That's my only thing that I do. This one little one. But I have a couple teachers. I have a student of mine that I'll send to. I go, listen, this kid knows every type of rasp you could think of. And he could do it like this. Oh, this is the grunt. Oh, this is the hoop. This is the hank. This is the bop. This is the boop. This is the boop. And he does it on call. And he studied that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'll send them to someone like that. I have had students come with, songs in Chinese. And I don't have a problem with that. I like it. If the song's kind of cool. I'm really like, oh, okay, you got to see what they're doing here. They're staying on this vowel, and that's cool. But if it's something that I know I can't handle, like if I was like, I don't think I'd do Hindi singing. I don't think I'd be able to handle that.
There's some really amazing. I'll have to send you some stuff. There's some even the pop stuff. The singers are really freaking incredible. Like 70s pop rock singers, except it's in Indian. It's incredible. It's so challenging to sing, and they're just doing it so naturally, and all right choices. Nice young voice. Beautiful vowel choice and everything. It's just in a different language. It's really cool. It's crazy. I was intimidated initially, but I've done it with a few people, and I have a bit of an approach, and I understand some of the sounds. Not that I'd put out there that I want to be teaching that stuff, but it's so much fun.
Yeah,
it's fun.
No, I like that. I like that with other languages, and then but some of the ones I've sent stuff to him for the raspy stuff.
Yeah, I've got some. I've got some guys that do the
song's crazy. If it's a crazy, like if I'm like, I can't, like you said, someone came with their own language, like, nah, man, I'm not the guy for this. I'm not your guy.
That was a challenge. Challenge. I accept. I don't know whether we succeeded, but he did record it. Which was, it's out there somewhere. I'll see if I can find it somewhere. It's crazy stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's wild stuff. So did we get through the 10 questions?
No, I'm going to ask you, how much of singing is just support for you?
Yeah, this was the question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
At least not the way that I was initially taught, and not the way that I think a lot of people think of it.
So were you initially taught by the opera singer?
No, Rick? So I took training for 10 years before I went to Rick.
So you already had.
And it was always the push down thing, the bathroom movement kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. It just makes me yell It just makes me yell. Still makes me yell if I do that stuff and I take that kind of advice. And I probably do it in the wrong way, I'm sure. But thinking about resisted exhalation. Maybe I'm too stupid to understand a simple instruction like support your voice, but I'm like, okay, resisted exhalation, I can do that. That's something I can tangibly do, and then that helps me sing, and I use the vowels. Probably the vowels are the bigger thing for me. So how about for you? How about for you? How much of it is just, you
I tell you,
having a bad night and you just,
it always comes back to support. That's why I keep every year, I say this, every year, every 6 months, it gets more important to me in my teaching and in my, because I start to hear, like you said, resisted exhalation, right? So it's funny because you know how everyone will take something different.
Totally.
So I'll think of that as like holding back my air, right? And some students might think that, and then they're going to be like, and they start, and so that gets weird because then your voice sounds strange. I get it, and for me, it's kind of like I could only go to like Chris Stapleton, Alex, my old coach. When I watched him support, nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing physical, right? Yeah.
Like he'd be in front of me, and I'd go, all right, go, and he'd breathe, so everything kind of expanded.
Yep.
Right, and then go, and then nothing, and I'd be like, how's that sound? And you're not doing anything. Whereas even for me, I'm always, when I'm teaching, and my students don't know this all the time, but I have like one hand here and one hand here to make sure that I'm not going like that. I have to like make sure everything's just and staying there.
Yeah. So it's exactly the same thing. It's the same way that I approach it as well. It's not this physical. I think a lot of people come to me with the idea that you've got to muscle your way through it, and if they muscle more and clench the abs is the bad one. Once you start clenching your abs, you're done.
That's the worst one.
You're done. You got you got your cluster of nerves, your solar plexus, everything. Once you start clenching up here, your voice starts doing weird shit, and then you learn it. And then even if you stop doing this, the nerves are still firing and your voice is still bracing, and it's so hard to break that with someone. And I was definitely that for me.
I go back and forth. I jump around my voice. That's what I figure. Even after me and you met, and we were, you were helping me with some stuff and talking through stuff, like that whole last couple of weeks, I've been messing with, just going back on my old exercises and doing my thing.
Yep.
And I'm noticing, I'm like forgetting to do this, or I'm forgetting to do that. Yep. And when my notes are clean, really high and really clean, that's when my body isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
But for me to get there is like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I took a left turn within 3 weeks.
Yep.
I was saying, I had the best vocal nights of my life for a couple months there. It was great. I felt phenomenal. I was like, wow, I finally, as far as a performer, I've got everything I need. Everything. And then all of a sudden, within 2-3 weeks, everything just started collapsing. I started, what's going on? Maybe I got to tighten this down here. I got to do this. I got to do that. And then it got worse. And then it just starts.
It just start grasping for straws to fix it. That's,
my God,
totally
dude.
Hear it.
It's so frustrating. And that's the thing that as a singer, as a teacher, doesn't mean I know the things to do as a teacher. As a singer,
different things.
That's
right.
Oh, it's different because there's the performance, and it's just you're not singing a 5-tone scale or an arpeggio. You're singing these melodies, up and down, and every song is by a different singer in a different key for a different voice.
Exactly, you're right. Yeah,
and it's just like it's But
how much of that is related to your back?
I don't know. That's scary too. As I'm sitting here, I'm all nervous. I'm put my hand under my ass, trying to straighten my back. It's like, because that went out on me. That's the whole thing. That it could be from the last 3 weeks. My back went out about 3 weeks ago.
There you go.
So I'm thinking, because I can't. It just hurts. So it's. I mean, I've already had surgery.
You're going to be tender about it, and you're not going to want to go towards stuff the way you did.
Yep.
The only way it was put to me. I used to know some opera guys that used to greet each other with like, appoggio. The way that they put it to me was basically you can't support the wrong tone. So support's not even about your breathing; it's about singing the right tone that your breathing will support.
Yep.
It depends on how you look at it. So if you kind of look at what's going on with a different singer, the support's probably part of it, and they need to do it, but you can't do it to the wrong sound. Is basically how it works for me. So I always look at the right sound first, and then that is this final secondary thing where I'm like, okay, posture, wide down, relax,
Yep.
lower back, that kind of thing. And
Yep.
that's how it works for me. So it depends, again, probably semantics, but
What about
it's
What about placement? That's the other big one,
huge,
right?
huge.
The other big one's huge, right?
That's massive for me. Yeah. Because my voice doesn't sit high at all, ever. So learning that was huge, and also I think that's a pretty scary thing for people because you show them a more nasal sound, and they're like, I don't want to sing like that. Nah, like, well, no, the point is to not sing like that. It's to find that and then port that into the rest of your singing when you're getting the vowel right, so that it's not through your nose and it's not nasal. But
Right.
that's a challenging thing to teach too, I find.
Super challenging.
Mm.
And I think I know why. Like, I think I know why. Like, a lot of times I'll go, man, I got to warm up this, like, for me, because I always sing back and down like this. It just happens because of old teaching. So it's an old habit still trying to break. So I'll go and I'll start warming up on a hum or an NG or something, just low notes, nothing. But what happens is I get too much flow and the body's collapsing.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
not holding back the air and supporting the way I should and letting the air just drift out of me. So what I am doing is more or less pushing all that air out through the fold, not being as adducted as they should be.
Yep.
So then what happens is I get that I go to sing and I'm like, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. So that's a tricky little booger for myself.
Finding the little different pieces of this is what we were talking about the other week, like finding the formants in the vowel. And most people look at me like I'm nuts when I go through this, but like finding it on your A vowel in the front and then finding it in the back on an R vowel and realizing there's two sounds going on at once at the same time and they're different frequencies, and separating that from placement, and it's all linked and you get complementary frequencies between all of them, and then you get that ring.
Yep.
That's what I find first thing in the morning. I'm like, I have this checklist that I go through, and I'm like, have I found it in the vowel? Yep, I'm good. Have I found the placement? Yep. Have I found the twang? Yep. Okay, now we can support.
Yeah.
That's
That's
how I
wild.
approach it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pain in the butt for me.
Yeah. It's a pain for me, but it gets me to the same point every day, and then I can sing what I want. So I've kind of come to enjoy it a bit. If I think about doing it, I'm just like, ugh, I can't be bothered. But if you know it's going to get you to that point, it's like warming up with playing guitar or whatever. That's boring. But if you know it's going to get you to the point where you can play like Slash or
Right.
something, you're going to do it. There's your incentive.
Was that something that your old teacher explained to you? Those two separate vowels, one in the front, one in the back?
Not really.
Not really.
And that was more just continued self-study of things that I didn't really understand that I was doing. Like basically, okay, you sing an R vowel, and then over the years teaching people, you'd be like, hang on, what is that? What actually is that? And then if I can't answer the question, I take it upon myself to go and find an answer for it. It's basically how that's happened. And you look outside singing, you look at speech, you look at sound waves in a space, and it all lines up. And you look at you look at there's tons of vowel modification charts that have frequencies on them, and that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And you'll see the clarity stays the same often, and the structure's changing. And once you learn to read it in that way, you can actually modify your vowel without actually using words. You don't even have to have word references. You can just change the space or the sound or intend for a different tone at a different spot. It's wild how it works. And then you can do it in different ways. So that's more self-study with that. Also, I'm just too dumb to take a simple instruction.
Too smart. That I already said that. You're like way
None
smart.
of this stuff works.
Kind of nutty. Like one thing I noticed when you change your vowels, you don't change your lips as much as you change the back.
Yep. Absolutely. Your clarity, your structure. If you want to pronounce the word and actually sing the word and actually modify it properly, it's largely in the back, which is, it's different to opera where you're actually going to change the whole vowel pretty much to a better vowel. The concept of good vowels and bad vowels never really made sense to me until I started speaking to you. And I was like, oh, okay. I totally get that now. I totally understand that concept, but it didn't work for me because I was like, but I don't want to sing, oh, I want to sing, yeah. I want to sing, hey, ha, like whatever. I want to sing this word. I don't get how I can just sing, oh, when that's going to work. But yeah, definitely just in the back. That's
interesting.
Yeah. And then that way you can articulate different sounds from different vowels, and you actually end up with more than 5 or 6 vowels. You end up with 12 or 15 because you can have one vowel that's pronounced in different ways, and it still works because the structures works and you're still modifying it.
Yeah. How much do you think, I'm back on that, how much do you think that plays into support that it works?
Well, that's part of that. That's definitely part of that as well, because it has to be the right sound. You can't just pronounce a sound and then grunt through it. It's not going to work.
It's
And
not gonna work.
your body will kind of go into that. It's all linked. Like your lips partly control your soft palate. The width in your mouth, the tongue position affects how the harmonics come from the vocal folds as well, because your body's like, oh, you've got a space there, let's make some frequencies that fit there. So it's all lined up, and support's kind of, again, for me, that the end of the flow-on effect where you line up the ducts, then the body's like, okay, we're going to need to support to make this happen, and then it kind of happens.
As you sing higher, you back to support. See, this is what's cool. I love talking about this kind of stuff because everyone kind of looks at it a little bit different.
Yep, totally.
As you sing higher, so if this is your core, right? And again, not your
vanity core,
not your abs, but this is your inside, is your core, right? So you're going from whatever to whatever, low C to high C. Boom, you hit that low C.
Mm-hmm.
What happens here? Is anything change, or this just doesn't move?
Depends on what I focus on.
Just the air is releasing.
Yeah, it depends on what I focus on. So I treat an onset as somewhat of a crescendo instead of either doing you don't want to do a glottal onset, you don't want to be aspirate. The balanced onset thing's really important, but it didn't really work for me until I started treating it like vocal exercises, and everything's a slight crescendo when you sing. Center of my voice, just as a reflex, I want to push and clamp and hold all my breath and just shout. So I exhale slightly. The E, F, G area, I slightly exhale. Then I pretty much pull it back in, which feels like lower back muscles, front of the groin, kind of internally, and this is all extremely relaxed, like upper. Yeah.
Yep.
Is that how that area feels for you?
So your low, your pelvic floor and your back, are you feeling them engage more, like out, or are you feeling them?
Yeah. Not so much in a muscular sense. Yeah, it's again, it depends on what you're focused on.
Outie, or am I an outie breather? Am I innie breather? So there's always the different,
Yeah, it's not a clenching. It's not a flexing or a clenching like you'd flex here. If I had muscles, I'd show you flexing muscles, but I don't have any. It's not like flexing a muscle when you pick something up or lift a weight or something like that. It's kind of hard to explain. It's kind of hard to explain the feeling, right? Like it's kind of like if you sit forward in your seat, it's probably hard with your back, but if you sit forward in your seat and then you breathe in the way you should, you'll feel the feeling of those muscles wanting you to sit up straight.
Yep.
So the psoas muscles in the back, from your spine, your lower back, partly in the ribs, the front of the pelvis, it wants you to sit up straight, and that's what I feel. That's what I feel when I support.
Okay.
It's like a standing up, like if you're leaning against a wall. It's that you don't like flex your abs to lean against a wall, but you feel that core making you do that. Yeah.
And if you're going from a lower phrase or a higher phrase, something higher, say, do you feel that engage more as you go to the higher one, or do you feel it's kind of steady?
It's pretty steady, but the back pressure's more, so there's more pressure higher up. So
you might feel a little engagement.
Yeah, there's more pressure in it. And the frequencies definitely, I can feel the high note as a little ball of just somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not more. It's like I'm never clenching. I'm constantly managing that wanting to push thing. It's still there. If I don't warm up and I don't think about it. Yeah. It's tough, or even speaking. If I not that you should yell at your kids, but like if they're running on the road or something and you yell out or something, like I feel that. I'm like, oh man, I don't do it naturally in the right way for whatever reason. Accent probably. So I'm constantly managing that clamp and push thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So is it like lower back, the front for you, or
for me it's the very front. As long as that's why I always have a hand here. Yep. I'm trying to see if my ribs kind of go out just a little bit as I hit, and then the bottom, that below the belly button down there, I'm trying to sometimes I just go, oh, it's just doing it, and that's when you notice your abs are doing nothing, and you're like, oh, okay, so I'm in a good spot.
That's the one.
It's hard to teach that to someone that's new to it, and it's also hard when I don't know. I guess it depends on the day. Like I said, you have those good gigs. I mean, one of the last gigs I was on that was great. I was on stage. No one, I had the tuxedo on. No one knows. And I'm singing. I got my hand, and I'm like, they're probably like, what's he doing to himself? I'm like, in my hands in my tuxedo, going, what the fuck? Why is tonight so easy? Why is tonight so easy?
Yep.
And I'm like, because nothing.
It's the tuxedo. Definitely the tuxedo.
Yeah, it's the monkey suit. It's the monkey suit. I just go because nothing. Like I'm not thinking about that bottom muscle. I'm not thinking about my back. I'm not thinking about anything. It just kind of goes everything. I'm just singing and everything's like, I'm like, this is the best.
You can see it on someone's face too. You can see when someone's a clampy, pushy singer. You can see it on their face. It's like the expression changes and they get a little red in the face, and there's almost like this bodily start to the note. You can tell someone sings like that. Whereas you look at someone like, we were talking about Steve Marriott before, the live clip of Black Coffee where he's just being a total badass. And that first note in the song's a D5, and it's just he's almost laughing at how easy it is. He knows he's awesome, and there's no to get that to happen. It just comes out, and it's this just vicious, paint stripping, powerful note and full voice. It's just so. Looking at people like Paul Rodgers sing too, just there's those massive concerts in like the 60s, 70s. There's the Isle of Wight one when there's like 4 billion people there.
That's one of my favorite free shows.
And he's just got his eyes closed and he's just leaning back. Kossoff's leaning against the guitar amp.
That's a great one. And then the one where I think it was filmed like on BBC or in London when we got the orange amps and it's beautiful the studio, and everyone's just kind of sitting around, and you got the drummer,
and he's really
oh yeah, he's swinging like this. I'm like,
amazing.
This is the shit. No one does this anymore.
It's all about Andy Fraser for me. It's all about Andy Fraser.
Absolutely.
Free always has been. Just it's louder than the guitar. The bass is louder than the guitar. It's busier than the guitar.
It's a tuba. It's literally when we talked about that.
I can't unhear that now. You told me that. I cannot unhear it.
It's a freaking tuba, and he was a tuba. Yeah,
amazing. Yeah, amazing bass player. Yeah, to have everyone in that band be such a virtuoso, such a lining of stars of some kind. You could put a shitty singer in front of that, and you're going to be amazed by the bass player, but they wouldn't have been the same band. It's same as a drummer. Simon Kirk's amazing.
Humble Pie, dude. Humble Pie, same thing. That rhythm section. Yeah. What's the rhythm section of Humble Pie? That's one of the best. Was it Steve? Who was it? I forget the two names. I used to know him, and I would forget one of them. Steve, I know that bass player. Steve, is that right?
Usually between the two of us, we can remember things.
Yeah, that rhythm section too, man. Go listen to that rhythm section on.
Amazing.
I mean, it's just they're a rock.
That's it.
It's like no wonder it was great.
Exactly.
He didn't have nothing to worry about. He's got nothing to worry about except his emotion, and then he just kills it.
I reckon singing for free would have been for any other singer nerve-wracking because there's so much space in that. There's barely any guitars playing through half of those songs. Like that, the BBC one, where he's wearing like cream pants or whatever, and he's right up the front. Everyone's seated, which is so unnerving. Having everyone seated and their arms like crossed and stuff's very strange. There's so much space in that, and he's so on his own at the front, and there's no guitar behind him for half. It's incredible. Hence Bad Company being a bigger, more bombastic kind of sound, I'm guessing.
Yep.
The two guitars and piano through everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the early free stuff. Yeah, that's the bomb.
That's amazing.
Like you, that was some of the stuff that got me to want to be a singer. Was some of that stuff.
He was the first one that I heard it in. Him and probably maybe Greg Allman. I still don't hear it in lots of singers. I still don't hear it in John Fogerty. I still just like, what are you doing? That's amazing, but I can't hear the right choices in this, but they're the right choices somehow. But Paul Rodgers, you can hear them. Steve
early Rod Stewart, The Truth. Truth album with Jeff Beck. That record, Truth, and was it Beck? Is it Beck Ola? Is that the other one he's on? Those early Beck records with Stewart on. I mean, come on.
And the Faces, amazing. All that stuff's amazing. Yeah, the first couple of solo records are really great as well. It's a bunch of really great songs. I really love his voice, the more rock and stuff. It's really great. He has such a great voice. There's a really great live one where they're doing the Beatles cover. Maybe I'm amazed.
Yes. Yeah. That's on the BBC. That's a BBC concert. Yeah.
And just when he starts singing, man, there's just something magic to whatever that voice is. Whatever the hell he's doing with his voice is magic.
Did you ever see the a cappella of him?
The one standing in the street? the tin,
Yeah, with the lady,
Tin
you
Pan
see
Alley.
the old lady up in
Lady in
the
the
corner. She, old
That's
woman's looking
amazing.
at, shut up.
Hilarious. He knows how good he is. He knows how good he is when he's singing that. That's just amazing. Such
Gasoline,
a
Gasoline Alley, that's it. Yeah.
Gasoline Alley. I was thinking, yeah, Tin Pan Alley, Gasoline Alley. Yeah, amazing. What was with that time, man? How come so many like just unique, amazing, incredible singers? What do you think that was?
I think it was, you know what? I think it was? Because it was closer to classical singing than we are now. How far we've gotten away from that. I truly believe that the closer you get to that, that's where you get those great. I mean, even if you go to the, Sinatra and Dean Martin and those guys, how beautiful their voices
Great
were.
singers. Yep.
Beautiful, like tone-wise. I'll never match Dean Martin's voice. I mean, that's one of the most prettiest voices you're ever going to hear. Mel Torme, that voice, those guys were closer to opera. And I think it spilled over to the rock guys. Like they would go, well, I got to go, take a couple lessons or whatever. Maybe they learned one thing, but it was closer to that. Whereas life went on, everyone was like, oh, you got to take, what do they call it? What do they call it now? CCM.
That's what they call
the
us.
new
Isn't it?
word. Yeah, the new word is.
That's one of those backhanded compliments too, right? They're just like, oh, you
Yeah, I
want
don't
to.
like it. I don't
No,
like
I'm
it
not
at
a fan
all.
either.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that comment at
No.
all. I don't. What do they
Yeah.
call? Is it? What does it stand for? I can't.
Yeah, I know.
That
I know what
was
you
fun.
mean. Yeah, I
Stands
blocked that
for
one out too. Contemporary,
CCM.
contemporary music,
Contemporary vocal music or whatever it is.
something like that.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Which is why I always say, like, those guys like Paul Rogers grew up listening to Aretha Franklin. I grew up listening to Metallica.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a very different singer when I start singing, and I'm going to think very differently than if I grew up listening to Aretha. That kind of thing. And it's definitely something to do with that. And you get those guys that do listen to that stuff and they do find those influences early on. They do sing a lot more like that,
Never Loved the Man. That record changed my life. That Aretha record. I was driving home from rehearsal, and that was on an AM radio station. It was the only station I got in my car at that time. And I got home, and the next day I called the radio station and asked them what it was.
Amazing.
What was that record you guys played? Or I called it that night when I got home. And then I went to the local music store and ordered the record. And I was just like, that changed.
Beautiful.
That changed everything. I mean, I knew, that's almost, I was like 16, but I knew I wanted to be a singer, but I just didn't until I was like 25.
I didn't until I was about 30.
Yeah. So
honestly,
same type of thing. Yeah. A long time.
I was the placeholder until I was 30 and and that was it. And it's been, a couple of years since then. But yeah, I've definitely wish I'd found it earlier, but part of it's that's what makes you are though. That's part of what makes you the singer you are, because you went through that. Would have been different had you found it when you were 16, probably. You'd be doing something different, probably. And then you wouldn't have had the opportunity to work with Alex. So it's all part of it, Yeah, it's all part of it.
Yeah, or any of the other opera singers. Like I've actually worked with a few different opera singers because I just love it now. I'm always looking for new. I'm always like, oh wait, what? This guy sounds great. I'm going to see Juan Diego Flores at the end of the month.
Amazing.
And I'm already like trying to figure out how to get a hold of him. I'm like, if I go to LA, I mean, maybe I could, watch it. I said,
it's got to be someone
watch him warm up. Maybe I could take him to dinner. I love his voice. Like, I think his voice is phenomenal.
Amazing.
And it's like, so I'm going to see him do just him and a piano. He'll probably play guitar. He's a great guitar player. So yeah, it's going to be amazing.
The confidence and the power in the voice carrying that, instead of
amazing.
Again, like Paul Rogers singing for free and not having the guitar behind him so much.
Nothing.
The way those the opera singers, their voice is the orchestra, basically, in a lot of those cases, which is just incredible. Yeah, and they match it to the room. They match it to the room. That's something I've seen a few people do. They like work out what the frequencies of the room are, and they try and sing to that to let them carry that. That does my mind in. I don't know how you do that.
There's a great singer. It's funny you say that. So years back, there was a singer. His name is Ryan Shaw, and he's a soul singer. He came out with a record called "This Is Ryan Shaw," and if you haven't heard it, I just turned you on. You're gonna love it, dude. It's Wilson Pickett, soulful, super soulful. Sounds like an old Wilson Pickett, Otis Redding record. It doesn't sound like a new record. There's a couple songs sound new. Most of the stuff sounds literally like an old record. And he does a Bobby Womack tune on there. It's great. Anyway, I met up with him. I was in New York, and he was playing a supper club, and I went, and I had my wife with me, and I was like, honey, go meet him. He'll want to meet the hot chick. Just go over and start bothering him. So she walked over to him and she was like, and she goes, come over and meet my husband. So I came over and I said, do you give vocal lessons? And he ended up playing Stevie Wonder. That's why he was in New York. He was doing in the Broadway musical, Motown musical, he was Stevie Wonder.
Wow. Incredible.
So that's why he was there. I said, yeah, you giving lessons? He goes, I do help some people out. I go, I live in California, but if I came to the city for 3 days, would you consider doing a lesson a day for 3 days? He goes, yeah. A year later, I went to the city and spent time with my old high school buddy, which was great because he still lives there. And I spent one hour a day with him.
Incredible. And
that's something he did. He never really studied. He just grew up in he went to church, gospel church as a kid. They told him he was like a bass baritone, and he just would cry in his scream in his bathroom trying to get his voice higher. And then one day he said he just figured it out. He said he was screaming, and then he yawned and screamed. And all of a sudden he felt something weird. And he's like, what's that? And he just kept doing it. And then he goes, yeah, that became my voice. I'm like, oh, lucky you. So, so we ended up talking, and he said what he would do was whenever I go into a new room, I find the resonance. It's just like what you just said. He goes in the room and he has the mic and he goes, I just find where I feel like it's sitting here, and I walk around till I find it, and I go, oh, that's where I got to sing tonight. This is where I got to sing. This is where which I never, ever get the opportunity to do anything on the gigs that I'm on.
Yep.
They do like 2-3 hour sound check with these guys. You know, everyone, Aynsley, it takes a while. Then the bass player and guitar, they got to do all the instruments, everybody's ears. I'm the last guy to test his mic. And I just go, because I know everyone's sick of being there. So I just go, check 1, 2, I'm good. That's literally.
Pay the sound guy, like buy the sound guy a beer earlier in the day and go there and then work out the room. That's what I used to do. Because like walking out into lights, just instant anxiety for me. But if you've been there before, you're cool. It's fine. You've warmed up on the stage. Even in the recording studio, same thing. I've always taken my own headphones, gone in there, told them to bugger off and let me warm up in the room. Because you step into this room you've never been in, you don't know how you sound, you're cut off because of your headphones, then you sing differently, and you get that red light fever thing. Whereas if this is just me, I just have to be used to that space to be able to sing it. Recording studio,
I wish I could with that live gig. I wish I could. I wish I could. Oh God, but I know everyone's sick of being there by that point. So I just go check. I can hear myself. Let me hear the guitar. Boom. Let me hear the keys.
You're the sacrificial lamb.
That's it. And I just go, okay. And I'm the first guy out on stage when we sing. I'm the first song. So it's kind of like it's a bummer, but it kind of cool as it puts you in a fight or flight. Like, got to do it. Can't screw up.
Get it done.
Got to do it.
It's amazing. What you do is amazing too. And just, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing this with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Me too. I'm feel the same way. I had a couple students mention you to me, and I started looking you up. I'm like, this guy's great. And he's a free fan. Wait a second. And that's when I was like,
there's not many of us. There's not many of us around, hey?
So it's like, it's fun to do this. I like doing I was doing that Real Singers on Singing,
which I love as well. I've watched listened to. I
really enjoy them. I just have a hard time always trying to find new people, or sometimes I want to ask a really great singer, but they don't know what they're doing. They just go, when I talk to them beforehand, they just go, I just sing higher. Kind of like when you just sing that higher. So it's like, amazing. And I kind of want to pick their brains about technique but when they just don't,
Which is interesting in and of itself. I find that fascinating too, because they're definitely doing something. But yeah, I find it amazing. But yeah.
There's one that I've asked because I want to have him on, and I've talked to him a bunch of times, and he bears down. He goes, I just go, and when you hear him sing, it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, really, that's what you're doing? Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I read that in Greg Allman's book too. I read that in his book, and he said singing used to hurt, and he couldn't sing, and he didn't want to do it. He just wanted to play organ. Till one day he was like pissed off at one of them or whatever, and shouted at them, and his voice came out, and he just did that for 40 years. Just shouted at everyone, right from the belly, right from the belly, as loud as he could, as high as he could, and that was how he sang.
Amazing.
And that would be me losing my voice permanently, probably me trying to do that.
Amazing.
who knows what that is? Who knows what that is? I just, yeah. Ozzy Osbourne's another one that gets me too, like the Sabbath records, like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Every song on that starts at a C5, and guy apparently doesn't know what he's doing. And they're higher. He lives in that range, never lost his voice in the 70s.
Yep.
What are you doing? I don't know.
It's almost like I chalk it up to him. As you watch different singers, you go, "Oh, that's just that." Like I think that's because of his placement. I think his placement,
the whiny, really bright kind of.
And I think that saved him. Like that, this is what
Agreed.
kind of tricked him into it. Whereas, like what I was saying, like what Ryan Shaw said, he kind of was yelling. He was in the bathroom. He's always like blowing his voice out because he would go to school. They'd make him sing baritone bass, and they would leave school. It's like a performance school, and he'd come home and he'd cry and he'd scream in the bathroom, blow his voice out, go back to school. And then one day he said he yawned while he was screaming, and something happened. And I was like, that's it.
That's part of it too. Like, I mean, I think like with the 70s stuff as well, like, listen to how Glenn Hughes sang or those kind of guys sang. Like, there isn't the need to be hyper masculine with the way that they sang, or John Fogerty, that kind of thing. They're not trying to do a chesty mix, which is my least favorite term ever. But
are they doing classroom voice?
They should be. They should be doing classroom. The Paul Rogers
still
voice,
don't get it. I want to understand it. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
The kids not going to listen to you, man. Okay, everyone, yeah, and that's your Paul Rogers voice right there.
Yeah, I know. All
I need is a friend, someone to give me a helping hand. Okay, everyone, yeah.
Now tell Sally to put down the stapler.
We don't pronounce half of those words. Stapler.
Stapler.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Oh, I love it though. Like that's it's so funny how smart, I've told you this, how smart you are. Like you're just, to me, like, I'm like, this dude just knows too much. And like, all this stuff, the formants and everything, but like really well, because you say it and do it and say it and do it. And there's a vowel here and this thing here. But then classroom voice, you make it simple. You break it down. It's totally simple. Yeah.
Totally. I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can. I'm actually kind of moving into doing good vowels and bad vowels. Care of you. I'm using that as a way to simplify it after the fact. It works.
Yeah.
Really works. So yeah, I'm totally stealing that from you. You can take classroom voice when you work it out.
Classroom voice. I love it.
It's the Paul Rogers voice, and then your cry voice is your Chris Cornell. Yeah, your witchy tone is your Rob Halford. Your pingy chest voice depends on the voice. Is like, I don't know, Johnny Cash is a good one. The pingy low voice is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. I love it.
Awesome. Cool, I've kept you for almost 2 hours.
I know. It's been fun. I'm starving now too. I got to eat.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah,
it's time.
That was super fun. You didn't keep me. I kept you. This was real. We're going to do it again soon because this is fun.
Yeah, we'll follow up. We'll actually go through the questions next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I was actually just looking at
them. We did most of them.
Yeah, we did most of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll do a follow up.
Yeah, absolutely. That was super
fun.
Thanks,
man. And thanks for the recommendations. I'll check out Ryan Shaw.
Yeah.
I've got the other ones that you told me from last time, which I'll definitely check out as well. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Cool, man. All right.
Awesome. Take it easy. Yeah, you too. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you, man.